Madhava Kunja Bihare Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Gopi Jana Dalava Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Dalava Girivaradhari Yashodhanandana Vrajajanarandana Yashodhanandana Rajacharya's Srila His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Standaracharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Shri Shri Panchatattva Ki Jai. Sankirtan Yajna Ki Jai. ISKCON Newcastle Yatra Ki Jai. Go Premanande. All glories to their assembled devotees. All glories to their assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Sri Prabhupada. Oh. Haribo! Thank you very much. And welcome to everyone. How nice to see you all. Great, actually, tremendous. Yes, so we are going to be having our seminar on devotee relationships, how to create them, how to develop them, how to destroy them. I mean, just everything to do with these things. Yeah. How to avoid, difficulties, what to do if some difficulties arise, and so on and so forth. How to appreciate devotees. In fact, tomorrow, we will do what we call the appreciation exercise. All of us, all of you, will get the chance to appreciate each other. Hare Krishna. What is your name? Nikunj. Wow. Nice to meet you. Right, yes. So all different and we're going to also explore the subject of, we'll touch on offences to some degree, particularly offences to devotees, which, it's a sensitive point and something we've got to really watch out for. And we're also, I think today, towards the end, we'll discuss very interesting and important subject, forgiveness in devotee relationships. Yes, how to forgive. It's a deep subject, actually. So that's just a little idea. Oh, and we're going to talk about relationships between juniors and seniors. Well, juniors towards seniors. Then we're going to look at relationships amongst equals in Krishna consciousness. Then we're going to look at relationships between seniors to juniors, how seniors should interact with juniors, in other words. And the other one I mentioned is from how juniors should interact with devotees who are senior to them. And it's such an interesting subject, and it's really such an important subject, because if you mess it up, well, let's not say that. Well, let's say, if you get it right, then, it's so tremendously beneficial to your Krishna consciousness, to you. And it will make you really a very happy and successful, but particularly very happy devotee. And we all want to be happy, I think. I mean, at least no sane person wants to be unhappy. Yeah, so anyway, these things and some others, we'll see how it goes. We're going to be discussing from now for the next, about, I guess, hour and a half or something. And then tomorrow, same sort of time. Right, so let us begin. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristha Padaya Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastutyade Shatane Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vajrapatarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhurya Eva Cha, Tati Taram Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. We offer our respects to all the devotees, all you devotees. And here we go. Right, so first of all, by way of introduction, really. So we're going to be discussing this theme, more or less, in two contexts. One is philosophical or scriptural. There's so many statements from scripture, from Prabhupada's books, from Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and so on, about devotee relationships and examples of them. Examples of people who made just really good devotee relationships. And then there's some examples of some who really messed up their devotee relationships and paid a price, so to speak. Yeah, so these types of things we'll look at. And there are just a few common sense types of ideas on the subject of how to interact with other devotees, but you could also say just how to interact with other people. You know, it's not just restricted to devotees by any means. Yeah. So yeah, that's what we're going to do, some common sense things. But you know, famous saying, you're familiar with it, right? The problem with common sense is that it's not so common. Yeah. So therefore, a lot of these things have to be pointed out. They should be obvious, but to our minds, they may not be obvious. So, yeah, and just one little note from Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada makes the point that one of the main problems in ISKCON, not just in relationships, although it's there in relationships too, and it's a very important aspect of the subject. So one of the main problems is that we act in terms of feelings and not in terms of what is right. This is important because feelings come and go, feelings change, and feelings get carried away with themselves, and things like this happen. And in this way, well, you can just create difficulty for yourself, becoming a servant of your emotions, servant of your senses. But really, in Krishna consciousness, we're really trying to do things right. And this is the great benefit of having Srila Prabhupada. That Srila Prabhupada was just such an incredible expert. In fact, he was like, you could say, perfect in his understandings and applications of understandings of what to do and what not to do, and how to do and how not to do these types of things. Just so incredibly expert it was. And it's literally superhuman. Superhuman in the sense that beyond just sort of normal quote-unquote people's abilities to function in life. So, okay, let us get into it. Like I said, some of these things are common sense. You won't find them, some of them, you won't find them exactly in Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam, etc. But they are applications of things that you find in those places. How to apply them, which means in our lives. That's really important, because otherwise you end up with a whole stock of theoretical knowledge. Or it's effectively theoretical knowledge, but you don't know how to apply it, and therefore you just can't apply it. Yeah, okay, so first thing, here's our first point. And really, please try to get this. Some of you, I'm sure you will have heard this before, but that's fine, don't worry. Prabhupada would say, repetition of a good thing is good. So don't worry. If you've heard some of it before, don't think that, oh gosh, same old thing again. But really try to take it to heart. And thank you, Ajay Chaitanya Prabhu and Vanamalini Devi Dasi and others, Mataji. I don't know your name, but Hare Krishna. Yes. Oh, Shamapriya, Hare Krishna. Thank you for bringing, and you, Prabhu, bringing a notebook and a pen. Well done, and bringing your telephone, or two telephones, one for each hand. Because, the thing is, normally we give a class, you've been to many of our classes. Oh, great, thank you. You woke me up. So you've been to how many dozens of classes, and I would say definitely generally, devotees during our typical classes, they don't take notes. I think it would be a pretty good idea if they did, but many of them, just practically all. Like I gave a class last night to how many people were there? Maybe 50 people, perhaps, or more. Anyway, nobody took a note. And let me just inform you of something. It's an interesting point. People who have studied the giving of seminars Yeah, and how it works. The giving of seminars in all respects, but particularly for those who are the students in a seminar. You know what they say? And these are people who have really studied it, professionally studied these things, how seminars work, and how a person's participation or benefit can be increased and enhanced. So they say, if you sit in a lecture or a class, then, and you just sit there and you listen, then of course, it's good, it's not bad, but in terms of retention, really what goes in and sticks in, they say if you just sit there and listen, then normally people will retain plus or minus 7%. How's that? But if you sit there and you take notes, then generally speaking, you may retain Shri Panchatattva. So generally, Hare Krishna, welcome. So if you sit there but you take notes, then you may, on average, around about retain 50% just from that one act. But if you do that, take notes, and then you go over the notes and really try to get it into your memory system, then they say you can retain up to 93%. Yeah. And then, that's a lot. And then you really benefit in an ongoing type of way. It really stays with you. It becomes part of you. And you don't just forget it and it's all just out the window and gone forever. So, if you happen to have a telephone with you, normally we don't encourage devotees to play with their telephones during a class. But if you've got one with you, then please use it to take notes. And when you come tomorrow, hopefully you'll all come tomorrow, same time, same place, then please remember that and bring something to write things down. I suspect it'll be better and easier to actually write with pen and paper rather than telephone, because a lot of devotees, they type with one finger on the telephone, and so to keep up, you really got to go like a madman. So there you go. This is important just in life, if you really want to retain things, because, particularly in Krishna consciousness, and I'm sure like in your work environment, you have seminars and things, and if you can really retain it all nicely, then it will help you in your Krishna consciousness. It'll help you in your career. It's just a very wise thing to do. We should have informed you of that. I don't know in the announcements about the seminar if that was mentioned, but anyway, here we go now, right? So first thing then, in regard to relationships as such, and again, it's common sense, which applies in any type of situation in life. but it certainly applies in Krishna consciousness. Have you heard the expression that relationships are like bank accounts? Have you ever heard that one? It's there, amongst those who give seminars. Relationships are like bank accounts. And you may be familiar with this idea. If not, it's okay. We'll explain that, bank account, you all have bank accounts. Do you have a bank account? What are you doing? It's interesting. Good boy, you're off to an early start. So relationships are like bank accounts. And bank accounts, you make deposits and you make withdrawals. And of course there's interest there. And there's sometimes there may be an overdraft. And sometimes you may go bankrupt. Yeah, so anyway, relationships, they really are like bank accounts. Means, if you treat someone nicely, if you really treat someone nicely, then that is, you can compare that to making deposits into a bank account. It builds up the balance. It's all plus, plus, plus whenever you make a deposit. So like that, if you're really nice to devotees, and there are different ways you can be nice, we'll talk about that too. But just in a general sense, if you're really nice to another devotee, shall we just say, talk about one devotee for the time being. If you really treat them nicely, then each time you do that, it's like making a deposit. And in other words, your balance, positive balance increases, and you are becoming richer, you could say. So like this, it's nice to be nice to devotees. And there are different ways of doing that. You can serve the devotees, you can give them gifts, you can appreciate them, say, express appreciation for some service they're doing. Just like Prabhu here, our technocrat, Vaishnava, what a kirtan he led, wasn't it? And playing the mridanga, I couldn't believe it. I mean, I was very pleasantly surprised because, we were in Soho Street for about 5 days or something, just last week or so. And you know what? They've got all these brahmacharis, there's about 10 or 15 or something. They're really nice young devotees. But Prabhuji plays mridanga better than any of them. Yeah. I'm making a deposit. I am. But the thing is, it's true. I'm not just trying to be clever or to be diplomatic like a politician or something. It's actually a fact. It really is. And it's really nice to express appreciation. And like I said earlier, we're going to do an appreciation exercise of all, sitting in groups and expressing appreciation for the others in the group, in your group. Right, yes, so it's a very simple principle. So that's, you make deposits in your transcendental bank account with the different devotees, fine. just simply being nice. It's not like rocket science or something complicated. You just be nice with them. But then you make withdrawals by doing, the opposite. Things like criticizing them, particularly if you do it behind their back and they find out, which, is almost, it's as close to inevitable as you can get generally, that they'll find out. Yeah, things like that. Saying that you'll do something for a devotee, but they're not doing it, letting them down. And there are different ways, you can damage your relationships with other devotees or just with other people in general. And those are withdrawals from they generally call it emotional bank account, your emotional bank account with someone. And if you withdraw and withdraw and withdraw, if you keep withdrawing, eventually what happens, you go bankrupt, means the relationship just collapses and there's no relationship. And if you keep on doing things like that, then not only do you just sort of have a not a relationship, but you can get, the person can become really dissatisfied and upset with you and angry and like that. And that's sure, that sort of thing we just don't want at all. So, okay, if you lie to a devotee, if you cheat a devotee, if you criticize a devotee, if you blame a devotee, if you become judgmental with a devotee, if you are unsupportive, if you're not committed, if you become angry, if you break trust, if you betray a devotee, if you are ungrateful, if a devotee does something for you but you're ungrateful. These are ways of making withdrawals from your emotional bank account with the particular devotee. So, So, have any of you ever been criticized? Oh, he has. If you want to know about it, ask him. I think the rest of you haven't, so good on you. But it hurts, doesn't it? I mean, it depends. Sometimes Prabhupada, as spiritual master, would criticize his disciples. But because he had such, to put it in these terms, because he had such a huge positive balance in his emotional bank accounts with them. I mean, that was one point. And because they just understood so clearly that he actually is trying to help me and not just be nasty or something, something like that. So they welcomed it. Even Srila Prabhupada tells the story of an experience of his in Calcutta sometime. He was an initiated devotee, and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta was giving a class in one of their temples in Calcutta. Prabhupada was sitting right at the back. I guess, anyway, I don't know how big the place was, but Prabhupada was right at the very back. And sitting next to him was an elderly gentleman who had bad hearing, couldn't hear properly. So every now and then the elderly devotee would turn to Prabhupada and say, "What did he say?" And Prabhupada would turn to him and explain, "Well, he said this and that." But Srila Bhaktisiddhanta did not appreciate it. It was sort of creating a bit of a disturbance. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta stopped speaking the class. So there's like momentary silence. And then Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, pointing to Prabhupada, said, "You, Babu, you, would you like to come and sit here and speak?" How's that? Oh. Yeah. So, and Prabhupada, Prabhupada as an ideal disciple, he did not take it that, "Hey, listen, I'm trying to help the devotee, so, don't criticize me for that." No, he didn't say that, he just humbly accepted it. And even, it's an interesting point. Generally, the disciples have a very positive type of attitude towards the spiritual master. They're very respectful generally, very appreciative and like that. But Srila Prabhupada, he told his disciples about that, how he got chastised by his spiritual master. And Prabhupada said that he treasured that experience. He would think about it from time to time, and he really treasured it, that I got some mercy, I got some correction. And even Prabhupada himself, when he gave classes, and our dear little darling children are out there. No, it's all right. Oh, well, anyway. I was thinking they might be in here. He would not have them in here. He would not have them. Unless they're very nice and attentive like you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna, good work. And you too. He's doing quite well. He's doing very well. So Prabhupada would tell the mothers, like with little children who they're carrying around, Prabhupada would tell them, just put your hand over the child's mouth. Really, it's the direct approach. And take the child out. He didn't mince his words, he didn't play around at all. And, for some of the mothers, it was a bit shocking. So anyway, this is all to do with relationships like bank accounts, emotional bank accounts. And in our devotee relationships, we should remember that, because it's possible to wipe out your positive balance in practically any devotees. The emotional bank account you have with them, if you mistreat them in any of the different ways that I mentioned, lying, cheating, criticizing, etc., etc. So there you go. Yeah. So that's the first point. Now here, and that's just, that is not in Bhagavad Gita. Krishna does not talk about emotional bank accounts in Bhagavad Gita. Not even in the 19th chapter. You read you read the whole 19th chapter, you read. Srimad Bhagavatam, 13th canto. You read that? It's not there. It's just common sense, or the application of principles of relationship, principles of appreciation, and principles of valuing the association of devotees. So therefore it's not just like some material mental speculation, it's the application of really important principles in Krishna consciousness. So, in relationships, and again, this is sort of a general thing, I'm just throwing it in now. We may mention it again at some point. One of the big problems, even biggest problems, in developing relationships is the expectation or the hope that the other person that you're developing a relationship with or thinking of developing a relationship with, that you hope or expect, will they reciprocate with you? And if they don't, well, we won't be nice to them. At least we won't go out of our way to be nice of them. It's a very mundane sort of attitude to have. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. But if you don't scratch my back, I'm definitely not going to scratch yours. Devotees in their relationships should really try to be like selfless and not worry. In other words, be nice even to people who are not nice to you. There's a seminar which Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj did. If you remember Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, unfortunately passed away some years ago, but very special disciple of Srila Prabhupada. He did a seminar, how to love those who hurt you the most. How's that? That's pretty deep, isn't it? How to love those who hurt you the most. Because it's easy to love someone who loves you. It's sort of child's play, you could say. But, when a relationship is really awkward, then you may just not be mature enough to be able to remain in good Krishna consciousness and keep a really nice attitude. Okay, so that's there. Now, in our relationships, here's an interesting point, that we cannot, any bad relationship you were in, or any bad situation, even if it's just sort of a momentary type of thing, just very brief, it's not like an ongoing thing for days or weeks or months or years, but just something, something goes wrong, even if it's very brief. The thing is, a very important point, is that you were there. You were there. Or in other words, you were part of it. You were part of it. In material life, there's a thing that's called externalizing the blame. Externalizing the blame. Trying to dodge responsibility, basically, dodge responsibility for some, unpleasant situation. But a devotee, the thing is, even if there's some situation like that, And even if you are only 1% responsible for the bad interpersonal situation, don't think you're not responsible for your 1%. You are. And generally you'll be more responsible than just 1%. Yes, so like this. So, and we cannot control, in our relationships, we cannot control, or at least it's much more difficult to control other people in a relationship than it is to control ourselves. I mean, having said that, it may also be difficult sometimes to control ourselves in any given situation, but here we're talking about relationships. Yeah. But at least you're much more likely to be able to control yourself in a relationship than control the other person who's the other part of the relationship. So therefore it's said, and again this is common sense, but you know the problem with common sense, what's the problem with common sense? It's not so common. Yeah. And here's an interesting little sort of, what would you call it? A little bit of wisdom. We judge ourselves on the basis of our intentions, but we judge others on the basis of their actions. That is, that is a piece of wisdom, actually, and something to take into consideration. Yeah. The other person does not see themselves as you see them. Yeah. A person judges themselves by their intentions, but they judge you by your actions, because they can't even see your intentions, generally. So, anyway, if you're wise enough, make a note of these things because they'll help you. So now, devotees, well, so therefore it said, don't overestimate the power you have to change another person, and don't underestimate the power you have to change yourself. You can really change yourself, in other words. If you really get into it, you can really change yourself. So don't underestimate how you can, your power to change yourself, but don't overestimate. Don't think you can change another person too much. It's really much more difficult. So now, devotees, I'm now going to tell you a story. It is a fictitious story, and it was just created to make a point, not by me, but by someone else, just to make a point about sort of the most simple, basic principle of developing good relationships. It's just a super simple point. But the story, in order to get the audience's attention and try to keep it, the story, whoa, it's a bit of a story, my gosh. Anyway, you'll find out. So it's good, you're sitting down, everyone's sitting down. Fasten your seat belts, because you're likely to be a bit shocked by this story. So here we go. In one temple in northeastern England, anyway, in a temple, in one temple somewhere on planet Earth, shall we say. Yes. There was the temple president, and he really wanted to get a new Vyasasan for Srila Prabhupada. You know what I mean, like one of these hand-carved Vyasasans or Shringasans. That sort of like elaborate, really beautiful thing. And I'm not criticizing your rather nice Vyasasan for Srila Prabhupada. Please don't take it that way. But you could always get a nicer one. But anyway, I leave that with you. I leave that with you. So the president wanted to get a new Vyasasan. But guess what, devotees? Take a wild guess. You got it right. The temple was practically on the verge of bankruptcy permanently, as so many of our temples are. Yes. So they just had no money, and these things cost money. How can he stimulate a member of the congregation, one of the devotees, to come forward and donate the cost of a new Vyasasan? What to do? So, okay. So he's thinking about this and worrying about it. So one day, one of the devotees, who wasn't like really so much involved, but he would come on Sundays. And, you know, when I first joined, January the 7th, 1973, 10 o'clock in the morning, plus or minus, give or take half an hour either way, but there were regulars. They would come on Sundays only. They come for festivals too, like the big festivals. Otherwise, they just come on Sunday. And they would come, generally, I'm forgetting exactly how it works here, but they would come right as the devotees would have an arati, a full arati, at the conclusion of the program, after the class. Then they would have an arati, and then they'd serve prasadam. So these devotees, few devotees would come. They would come in the last 5, not even 5 minutes of the arati, the last 2 minutes of the arati, when the fan is being offered. You know what I mean? So we used to call them Krishna's fan club. So this man, he was kind of like that, you know. Not a very steady devotee who's into it. But he was, he was around. So he came and he said, "Dear temple president, I need some counseling. I need some help. You've got to help me." He said, my wife, ever since shortly after we got married, she has just been criticizing me and chastising me and blaming me and just driving me crazy. And it's been going on now for a good few years. And I just cannot take it any longer. She must die. You've got to help me. You've got to help me. She must die. And as I said, don't forget, it's a fictitious story. She must die. You've got to help me. So the president was shocked. What on earth do you expect from me then? So, but then he said, let me think about it. let me think about it, come back in a few days, and I should be able to give you some good advice. So in the meantime, he sent one of the other devotees, who was a bit of a sort of spy type, 007 type of devotee. He sent him secretly to the place where that devotee and his wife lived. And the spy kind of snuck around and was listening through a window somehow or other. And he heard the wife speaking. And the wife was complaining, "Oh, my husband doesn't give me enough money. Therefore I can't get the things I need. I can't buy nice vegetables," and so on. And he criticizes my cooking. Why don't you make pakoras for me? Because I don't have enough money to buy the veggies. So he criticizes me. And he doesn't buy me any decent clothes, and he criticizes me. "Look at you, you look like some sort of homeless person." And, yeah. So therefore, I'm just so sick of it. Therefore, as soon as he gets home, I just chastise him and criticize him and just give him a hard time just to pay him back. So the spy went and reported back to the president, and the president understood that the wife is apparently so nasty because the husband is nasty to her and not looking after her properly. So, anyway, now what to do with this situation? So the man, the devotee, came back. The president's now understood that the wife was cruel because the husband was cruel to her. So the president told this devotee that, you may not know, it's somewhere in Bhagavad Gita. It may be, I believe it's the 19th chapter, or if not, it's the 18th chapter, about verse 95 or something like that. If you're familiar with Bhagavad Gita, you get the idea. And, so Krishna says there that if you make a promise to him, to Krishna, and you don't keep it, your wife will die. That's what it says. That's what Krishna says. You make a promise to Krishna, you don't keep the promise, your wife dies. And the devotee said, "Oh, that's really good." So the president said, why don't you take a vow in front of Krishna that you'll buy a new Vyasa for Srila Prabhupada, and then don't buy it, and your wife will die. Are you all awake? Yeah. It's sort of a story which keeps people awake. So yes, do that. And the man said, that's a great plan, I like it. And he went in front of the altar and said, "Krishna, I vow to buy a new Vyasa for Srila Prabhupada." After the next day he came around and said, "How long will it take for Krishna to know that I'm not going to buy the Vyasa? And then my wife will die." And the president said that, because the man said, because I just can't stand it, living with this woman, I'm going crazy. So the president said, "Look, I just rethought it slightly. Why don't you just go in front of Krishna and tell him that you're going to buy a new Vyasa for Prabhupada, and then just immediately say to him, actually, I'm not going to do it. Immediately. And then your wife will die. So the devotee said, but how long is it going to be before my wife dies? And the president said, well, normally it's about 3 weeks. And then she dies. And the devotee said, how am I going to live for 3 weeks more? Oh no. Then the president said, I've got a suggestion. She's only going to be alive another 3 weeks. Why don't you just treat her nicely for 3 weeks? Yeah, at least, it might help the situation. So the devotee said, yeah, okay, I'll do that. I'll be nice to her. Just for 3 weeks. He came back after 2 weeks and to the temple president and said, I got a serious problem. Now, my wife, I'm being really nice to my wife. She's being nice to me. Now I don't want her to die. So, what to do? What should I do now? Because she's going to die in another week. And the president said, we've got the solution. Just get the Vyasa. And so the man said, right. And he went and arranged a really nice Vyasa for Prabhupada. And his wife didn't die. So to speak, they all lived happily ever after. So, anyway, sorry about that. I apologize. I know it's a bit bizarre, but it was fictitious. What did you think, Goranki? Was that an interesting story or too crazy? Just a bit crazy. Okay. Yes. So, this is about as simple a point as you can get. This is not rocket science at all in terms of devotee relationships. But a basic principle is, if you're just nice to people, generally, unless they're sort of mildly sociopathic or, they're disturbed people, generally speaking, they'll be nice to you. That's how it works. If you give mercy, you get mercy. If you give nice feelings, you get nice feelings, generally. I mean, there are exceptions, of course. Some people are just, they're just too disturbed to be nice. So, now, you know what? We are going to do an exercise here. We are going to do an exercise. We're actually going to make you think. Instead of just sit there and just, wondering what will be for prasadam. Excuse me, I know you're not thinking like that. But we're going to do an exercise. What we're going to do, we're going to divide you into groups of 4. BCAIS up. We're going to divide you into groups of 4. And the first thing each of the 4 of you will do, you will think about some problem that you have in your relationships with other devotees. which may affect you. Like, for example, maybe sometimes you're a little sarcastic. Yeah, it happens. And sometimes it will upset someone, like one of your friends. Or sometimes, anyway, things like this. Everyone has faults. But you should think of something in you which, like, maybe you're just not, maybe you have an inferiority complex, it's possible, but maybe you just have difficulty speaking to people and developing relationships. This is not unusual. Yeah. So we want you, first of all, to think. You'll be sitting together, the four of you, to think for a couple of minutes or so of some personal shortcoming you have. Maybe, maybe you're too quiet. Maybe you're too loud. Yeah, there's all sorts of possibilities. Maybe you have difficulty if people tell you secrets. Maybe you can't keep a secret. If you're that sort of person, I can tell you, you are not alone. There's so many. I don't know if you've ever had the experience of confiding in someone about something in your life, which is some problem in your life, and expecting that it's going to go no further than that person. And then just shortly afterwards, another person comes up to you and says, "Oh, I didn't know you had that problem." And it can be very embarrassing. It can be, wow, terribly embarrassing. You can become the talk of that Hare Krishna community. Right. So, okay, devotees. Then what you're going to do? So you're going to think of some problem or something which doesn't help you with your devotee relationships. Then you're all going to sit together, and one of you will begin by telling the others that I have such and such problem. And then the others, you know what the others are going to do? The others are going to give you advice. Yeah. And this, oftentimes at least, it really works nicely to get some input from others. Yeah. So then the first one will do that, then the second one, third one, fourth one, all the others will always give advice, and then we'll see after a while how it went. Is that okay? Are you game? Are you ready for a bit of drama? Okay, devotees, so divide into groups of 4 right now. Just a warning, it depends, but it may not be a good idea for husband and wife to be in the same group. It depends. So groups of 4. Now, if you're sort of like the odd person out, then you can just join another group. I see there's a couple of extra ladies there, looks like. You can just become member 5. Yeah, just become member 5 in the group. And our people over here, we've got 4, yeah? And you're 4, right? And up there, we're okay, you got? You can take that with the men, or you can join one of the ladies' groups, whatever. We'll leave that with you. Okay, so please start. Now, what you do now is you think of some shortcoming that you have within your relationships, your devotee relationships. I'll give you a couple of minutes, and then I'll tell you, okay, now you start discussing. Or, have you already figured out your problems? Just choose one. That will do for the time being. So think. You should be thinking, you shouldn't be talking too much yet. What problem do you have? Are you too quiet, too noisy? Do you create rumors? Do you gossip? All right, as soon as you're ready, you can start. Somebody's got to be member one. You've got to figure that out. Who's one, who's two. All right, go for it. And when everyone has explained their problem and got input, when everyone in your group is finished, just chant japa. So then I'll see that you're finished. And it's a good idea if you get some advice, what you can do about your problem, write it down.
What?
Superficial, just to say, oh, how are you? So you feel like that's what you say that, yeah, we did take time. You know, like we've properly spoken other than having this and that. So, you know, it's not really but, you know, we appreciate because of trying.
So how many groups have finished? If everyone has expressed their, how many groups have more than one person who still has to explain their problem? Okay.
We have one person. One person who needs to
More.
explain.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. So carry on. We'll give you another 5 minutes. How's that?
One thing is they say those qualities together. So since you draw and you serve it, has
Okay, another 2 minutes. 2 minutes.
I think I'm always when I
One minute. One more minute. Ten seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2.5, 2.25, 2, 1.75. Okay, Haribol, thank you. I must say, I was really happy to see that some intense discussions going on. That's great. And really, I hope you learned something. I mean, particularly if you had some particular weakness or shortcoming of your own which you presented to the devotees, and if you got some useful practical input how you could improve that, that's really great. That's what we're looking for. Yeah, we are all works in progress. And, Rome was not built in a day. And it's very unusual for devotees to become perfect just like that. But at least if we can step by step develop and learn and apply things and improve ourselves as devotees, that's great. Now, what I'm going to do now, what will I do? I'm going to give you a list which I'd advise you to write down in one way or another. These are qualities which can help us have good relationships. If you become a certain type of person, it will help you greatly to have good relationships. So if you've got your phone or whatever, then please write down. This, we've accumulated this list from numerous discussions with groups of devotees on here, because we've done this seminar on a number of occasions. So, a good quality which will help you is humility. Another good one is, what would you say? The ability to understand. There's a saying from a management guru. What's his name? I forget his name. But first try to understand before trying to be understood. Who was that?
Stephen Covey.
Covey. Stephen Covey. That is true. First try to understand a situation or a person, what they're going through, before you try to be understood, before you start, trying to solve the problem, before you've understood the problem. That doesn't work well. Tolerance is very valuable. Tolerance, that you don't fly off the handle too easily. Honesty. Patience. It's related to tolerance, but it's sort of a variation on the theme. In a certain sense, confidence. Of course, you don't want to get too, think you're too cool. And I can solve any problem just like that. Bring your problem to me. I'll solve it for you anytime. But a certain type of confidence in Krishna. Confidence in Krishna is that He will help me if I have the right attitude and motivations like that. Then, communication skills. Now, that's something that may have to be learned. Communication skills. Then, being responsive, meaning someone explains their problem to you and you don't get back to them for a month. That's not being responsive. But yeah, if you say, okay, I'll get back to you tomorrow, you must get back to them tomorrow. How extremely important, trustworthy. Trustworthy. Responsible. Which can be, responsible. It actually. Anyway, responsible, you know what responsible is. Then, ability to listen. To have good relationships, got to be a good listener. Compassion. Very important in relationships that you have compassion for each other. Respect. You need to be perceptive. You need to be receptive. Yeah. Open means open. Empathy. You need to be attentive because it's related to being able to listen. Attentive. And let's see. Sincerity. Sincerity. Integrity, which is also the same as trustworthy, I guess. Under certain circumstances, at least, to be submissive. Under certain circumstances, you don't want to be too bossy. To be flexible. To be flexible, to be able to go with the flow, when the flow sort of changes direction. Then, love. And then to not have personal motivation, like what you're trying to get out of the person, that sort of thing. So there can be others. You can think about it, and you may be able to come up with some others, but it's a pretty good list. If you can develop those qualities nicely, all of them, you're going to be able to. You'll be a really good friend, and you'll be really able to have good relationships. Now, the next thing, which we may just start tomorrow, well, it is about forgiveness. Forgiveness. But let's just see, we've got about 10 minutes. Anyone got any comments, questions, points they'd like to make? Anything you don't follow or understand? Yes, Prabhu. Why do we not, what can you?
Why do we not get some information in Srimad Bhagavatam?
Okay, did you hear that? Why do we not get information about these things, right, from Bhagavatam and other books? Well, the thing is, Prabhuji, good question, that we do. We do. Humility was first in this list. Trinada Pisa Nichena. You know that verse? Torora Pisa Hishnina. Manina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadhari. Yeah, so actually, information about these things is definitely in the books. Yeah, it's definitely in the books. Have you read the whole Srimad Bhagavatam? You're a good boy. How many rounds you chant? Okay. How old are you? 7. Okay. Good boy. No, these things are, but they're presented in certain contexts, under certain circumstances, so it's not quite, sometimes it's not quite as clear as just getting a list. You know, like we just gave you a list. Yeah, it's that then these things are kind of intertwined with other things. So, but don't worry, it's all there. We are not really speculating, it's the application of Shastra. Any other devotees? Yes, Chaitanya Vallabha Prabhu.
Thanks, Maharaj. It was just a little reflection. I really liked the point that you made where you said
Haribol. Welcome. Okay, see you later. See you later. It'll be prasadam time. Don't worry. So where were we?
I was just saying, it was a little reflection. I really liked the point that you made when you said, we judge ourselves on the basis of our intentions, but we judge others by their actions.
Okay.
And I just thought it was a really powerful point.
It is, which people generally don't understand, and it creates difficulties in the relationships. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Yes, Prabhu.
In your list, which you mentioned about, about improving relationship,
Yeah.
I felt caring attitude is also one of the important.
Okay, yeah, that's true. It's arguably in there in a slightly different form, but yeah, that's good. To care, to actually be interested in helping, supporting, yes. So you can write that down on the list. Caring, to be caring. Devotee care. It's one of the big subjects these days. Any others? No, that's good. Thank you. Yes, Prabhu.
My problem or my question is, it feels very good when I listen to all these things. When I really want to practice it, I don't know, how do I practice it?
Okay, you heard that? Right. Yeah, that's an important point. I would say the essence there is, an important part of the essence is to really chant your rounds really nicely, because that will sort of enrich the heart and strengthen the heart and strengthen the resolve, and therefore it'll strengthen one's determination. Having said that, you got to You know, we will give you a test, for example. I mean, a test, like when we serve prasadam, we're serving prasadam, I assume, shortly, right? Then we want you to sit down with whoever you like, basically, and we want you not to just say, "Oh, how are you? How are you doing? How's work? How's the family? How's the weather?" We want you to sit and discuss these things, as a discipline that you must do it. Okay, but the bottom line, my point basically there is that sometimes you just gotta pull yourself together and do it, even though the mind may have other ideas. A bit of discipline and resolve, determination. And then these things, at least many of these things, will become habits that you don't have to think, what should I do now? But it just comes, you act in that way because it's become ingrained. You know, as they say, if a practice makes perfect, if at first you don't succeed, try again. These types of ideas are there for good reason. Okay? Yes, Prabhu.
As Prabhu said, how can I do this? As I feel, it should be covered by the examples, like whether he is sitting in front of the devotee. As you said, we have to discuss these things. So he should always be talk about other devotees, that how honest is he, how effort.
Yes.
So we get examples of the devotee, and he correlate with that. Oh, if devotees are doing we do this.
That's very nice. Yeah, we do suggest to devotees that they learn these things, and in a deliberate way, when they, like when they come for the program in the temple, they observe devotees and consider that, what qualities is this devotee displaying right now? And then, and if you see, like for example, as Prabhu said, that you see this devotee, whoever it is helping another devotee, is caring, then what you can do is then express, at the right time, express appreciation. That I saw you were doing that and I thought it was very nice. Thank you for that. And by cultivating these types of habits, then good behavior, beneficial behavior, becomes more and more spontaneous. Yeah. Thank you. Yes, Mataji Shama Priya.
Thank you, Maharaj, for the beautiful class. Same thing which Chaitanya mentioned, that we judge ourselves on basis of
Our intentions.
Yeah, and others on the basis of action. What can we do about that? I mean, is it the aim that we slowly becoming empathical, or I don't know, develop third eye, or I don't know how we enter that level of consciousness where we can judge others also in the same way we judge ourselves?
Yeah. First of all, you have to be aware that this is how things work, at least often. Maybe not all the time, it's not absolute. But, be aware, and then when you're having interactions with the devotees, you understand where the devotee's coming from and how the devotee will be seeing you. that the devotee will be seeing your actions, and therefore you can understand or have some idea how they see you, rather than assuming that they understand you as you understand you. Yeah, like that. It's a bit of a science, but it can be done. And it should be done, actually. Thank you.
And that awareness, will that come to us through Krishna? He can give us from inside that inside if we are surrendered to Him.
Yes. Yes, he'll give it, and we can practice it too. Both things. Don't just wait till Krishna gives it. But yeah, you can practice it. Sadhana bhakti means we are practicing the right things. Yeah. Thank you. Anyone else? Any point anyone would like to raise?
Maharaj, like I just wanted to share my experience. So, as you mentioned that, like when we should appreciate the activity any other devotee is doing.
Right.
So, at the same time, when I went there to devotee, thank you so much, you are doing great job, something like that. He said with attitude that, yeah, this is I'm doing for me.
What about that?
This is I'm doing for me. No need to say thank you. So
Okay.
in those situations, how to basically we can improve our relationship.
Anyway, the thing is, and something there's a poem actually, that just because people may sort of react to us or act towards us in ways which aren't very good, doesn't mean that we should not do the good things. Yeah. I mean, oftentimes with devotees, if you go up and say, I saw you were doing this or that, and I thought it was really nice, thank you, then they're going to say, no. Yeah, I'm not nice, or something along those lines. But that's okay. That's fine. That's a natural devotee reaction, is not to think, yes, well, I did very well, didn't I? But that shouldn't stop us expressing appreciation. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
So, Bhakti Chaitanya Swami Maharaj ki
Yeah.